guys, and welcome back to another turbo session from your host Tofu Turbo Tommy. I've got a bit of the flu, so bear with me, but I'm trying my best here. Today I wanted to touch upon measuring ourselves by numbers. Like I say, it's strange how we are such a wonderful people, full of talents and good qualities, and yet we often measure ourselves basically on numbers. Like I say, we let things like our grades, our weight, anything that the numbers basically represents to us as being our self-worth. Like I say, we let it basically define us, and then when we don't measure how we're up to these numbers, it can feel as though we've failed again and we're not good enough. So here's basically the thing, like I say, anything that can be expressed in a number, whether that's your weight, your age, your salary, your dress size, your height, how many calories you've burned in a day, how many steps you've done in a day, anything at all. Numbers are what the eating disorder thrives on. Numbers are all about the eating disorder. So like I say, when you have an eating disorder, weight can be something that you try very, very, very hard to control. It can feel like if you gain weight, you'll simply lose control of your identity, because your eating disorder will fool you into believing that your eating disorder is your identity. That if you lose your eating disorder, you'll basically be worthless, you'll have nothing. Whether that's far from the truth. You're a wonderful person in so many ways, and your eating disorder does not define you. Like I say, you just happen to be a person with an eating disorder. You are not your eating disorder. So like I say, it's often hard to obviously let go of weighing yourself daily and such likes. Like I say, basically when I look upon it, I get a weekly weigh-in with my nurse, and I always hate looking at the number in the scales, because especially sometimes if you've eaten in that day, like you've got weighed later on in the day and such likes, obviously your weight goes up a bit. So sometimes when I step in the scales, it can look as if I've gained maybe 2 kilograms, and first the eating disorder thrives into that. It's obviously really important to keep in your mind that weight restoration is only a small part of recovery. The really part is obviously working on the mental aspects that you're dealing with in your head, because you've got to get to a healthy weight before you can start to deal with them. Whether that be BMI 18.5, BMI 22, everybody's at a different stage, and because a starved body is a starved brain, and you've got to be able to get to that healthy weight range before you're able to have the cognitive abilities to actually start to work upon the issues that's actually started your eating disorder, whatever that may be. Whether that be bullying, somebody making comments about you, such as myself, somebody losing a loved one, anything. There's so many genetic and social factors outside that cause an eating disorder. Like I say, it's not about weight. It very rarely is. Let's say sometimes it can be really easy to believe that life will obviously be great when you get to this certain weight, but losing weight is really not the answer to your problems. It's far from it. Your eating disorder will kid you on that once you get to that specific number that your eating disorder says is that magic number that will make you happy. You get there and you hate yourself even more, and it will just keep going on and on and on and on. So I say, happiness really comes from within, and if you let the numbers define your happiness, you'll end up being unhappy and disappointed with yourself when you can't actually control these numbers. Because like I say, it gets to the point, to recover, you've got to gain weight. I mean, there is no other way. You've got to get to your set point weight. And if you start to define your happiness within numbers, you'll never be happy, because you've got to gain weight to recover. There is no other way. So like I say, many people are obviously locked in a war with our minds and our bodies that we basically just can't win. Your weight becomes tiring. Like I say, it's not fun obviously being controlled by the weight and the rules that your eating disorder sets, because your eating disorder will always say to you, look, if you miss this meal, you'll feel better. Or you cut back a little bit, or you miss this food, you'll feel better. But like I say, it becomes a spiralling set. It just becomes like a train going round in the tracks, because you miss one meal, it becomes to, you miss breakfast, you miss lunch, then you miss dinner, you miss supper. It just keeps going on and on until the eating disorder is basically pulling those puppet strings, and that's what it's all about. Your eating disorder, I've got this analogy that my eating disorder in the back here at this moment in time is locked in a little shark cage, and he wants me to keep swimming towards him, and I've got the keys in my hand, and if I keep swimming towards him, he gets the keys, he gets out, and he's in control. And that's what it's about. If you keep missing one meal, keep missing another, that shark gets out, and he's basically your shark bait. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to keep him locked away in the back of your mind. So like I say, weighing yourself can obviously give you this illusion of control, but like I say, but you're really just giving the scales and your numbers control. Like I say, it's gaining weight. Gaining weight is not lazy. It's actually quite hard work, like I say, and it takes a lot of willpower, determination to not fall into these compensatory benefits, basically, while obviously managing your eating disorder and many other aspects of your life. Let's say when you develop things like anorexia, bulimia, eating disorder not otherwise specified, which is EDNOS, anything that you suffer with, let's say, you lose sight of what is normal and what is healthy. It feels like you're into a different universe, basically. You just don't know where you are, let's say. And it's obviously so incredibly hard to obviously cross back into the normality of this real world. It's obviously hard to fight the eating disorder, like I say. First you obviously have to eat to obviously overcome the urge to obviously restrict. And then you obviously have to get to the resistance of obviously not wanting to binge and purge, which I have done in the past. Like I say, then once your eating is obviously get back, it's to a healthy weight and such likes, the eating disorder will still be there. Your eating disorder voice is always there, so you've got to get to the point where you can now start to differentiate your eating disorder voice from your actual own voice. And like I say, it's basically addressing the elephant in the room. It's why when you get into therapy sessions, they get you to fight against your eating disorder. Like you'll say to your eating disorder, look, I know what's best for me, don't you argue with me, I've got to eat the food. This is what we do in eating disorders, we argue against the voice, and a lot of people don't understand that eating disorder voice. So I say the external appearance and the internal appearance is basically worlds apart to us. Obviously when we look in the mirror, we see somebody like 300 or 400 pounds, and to all intensive purposes, everybody outside, they see the real person, the skin and bones that we can be. So I say that the way I look at it, it's like a house. If you look at it this way, the house is basically your external appearance, and the foundations below are all the kind of internal things that basically the surface that people can't see. So like I say, obviously it really frustrates me when people oversimplify the eating disorders to be this desire to be thin. Like I say, yeah, that can play a part, but it's a complex psychological condition. Like I say, weight is not so much about your looks, but for many it's about self-esteem, self-worth, and basically a coping mechanism to deal with everyday troubles that we have in life. Like I say, numbers only have power over you if you let them. Like I say, would it not be wonderful if we appreciated the wonderful things that obviously our body can do when we're well nourished? Like we'll go out and we can get back into sports, we can go out in the beach and have a great day in the beach, we can start going out doing things with our family and friends that we miss so much, like having meals that your eating disorder have basically isolated you from when you've been part of it, because your eating disorder doesn't want you to get out there and enjoy life, because basically thinks, oh, you worry about obviously what the calories are in food and such likes. You can obviously start to do any of the things you love, like you may even, like if you're a female again, you may even get your menstrual cycle back. You'll have a chance to have a family. Let's say you can laugh, you can work, you can dance, sing, much more. Let's say recovery is like being born again, and it really is. Every day is a new experience. Let's say then basically the internal monologue and self-hatred is really unnecessary. I know recovery is worth it, you know recovery is worth it. Giving up the eating disorder, I know it can have a sense of loss, but it's really important to remember that you're gaining much more back. The real world that has basically lost you to your eating disorder, as well as creating a new sense of self-worth for yourself. I know for sure that everything out there is there for us for the taking, and we've just got to basically choose recovery. It's bloody hard, believe me. Recovery is not linear, it's got bumps in the road every single day, but if you have a bad day, it's about getting back on that wagon again, being the passenger rather than the pilot, and that's what it's all about, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you like this video. Also as well, like, share and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. And remember that the little guy at the end of the video says he knows best. Sending you all my love and speak to you very soon. Remember guys, binge on life, purge negativity and starve guilty feelings. Speak to you all soon and love you so much.